The arrival. The Galactic Council had maintained peace for 12,000 standard years. Their mighty fleets patrolled trade routes, their diplomats prevented wars, and their scientists shared knowledge freely across 100 different species. It was an age of prosperity, built on the simple belief that together they were stronger. Then humanity arrived. First contact happened not with weapons or warships, but with a simple message broadcast from a small blue planet in a forgotten arm of the galaxy. "Hello, we are humanity," the message said. "We come in peace, seeking knowledge and friendship." The council welcomed them, as they had welcomed others before. Humans were fascinating, short-lived but passionate, technologically behind, but learning quickly. They brought art, music, and stories that captivated even the most ancient species. Within a decade, humanity earned observer status at the council. Everything changed when the attacks began. It started with whispers from the outer rim, mining colonies going dark, research stations sending garbled distress calls. Then entire systems vanished from contact. The Council's mighty fleets, unused to actual combat after centuries of peace, found themselves facing an enemy unlike any they had ever encountered. The Shadow Fleet, as they came to be known, struck without warning. Their ships were impossible to detect until they opened fire. Their weapons tore through shields like paper. They left no survivors, took no prisoners, and sent no demands. They simply destroyed, system by system, moving inexorably toward the core worlds. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood before the emergency session of the Galactic Council, her brown eyes scanning the assembled delegates. 12,000 years of tradition, and now fear filled this chamber like a suffocating fog. "The human government has been following the situation closely," she began, her voice steady despite the tension. "We have a solution to propose." The Krell ambassador, a being of pure energy contained in a crystalline form, pulsed with skepticism. With respect, Ambassador Chen, what could a species barely 50 years into space travel offer against this threat? Sarah smiled. "We'd like to introduce you to the celestial silence." The hologram that appeared above the council chamber drew gasps from every delegate. The ship was unlike anything they had seen. Not the sleek, artistic vessels of the Althuri, nor the brutally functional designs of the Torgeth. It was something else entirely. The celestial silence was massive, easily dwarfing the largest dreadnoughts in the Council's fleet. Its hull was pitch black, seeming to absorb light rather than reflect it. But it was the ship's design that truly unsettled the observers. It resembled nothing so much as a predator, crouched and ready to spring. What is this?" The Althari delegate's musical voice trembled. "This," Sarah said, "is what happens when a species spends its entire history perfecting the art of war, then suddenly finds itself with access to advanced technology and unlimited resources." The council chamber erupted in discussion. Some called it barbaric, others desperate. But all agreed on one thing. They had no other options. 3 weeks later, the Celestial Silence made its first combat deployment. The Shadow Fleet had just destroyed the agricultural world of Fessia Prime, and long-range sensors detected them heading toward the industrial hub of Corvin's Reach. Captain Marcus Rodriguez stood on the bridge of humanity's greatest creation, surrounded by a crew that had trained for this moment their entire careers. The Council had sent observers, representatives from every major species, there to witness either humanity's triumph or its spectacular failure. "Shadow Fleet detected," reported Lieutenant Kim. 17 vessels, bearing 035 Mark II. "They don't see us yet," added Commander Paddle from the tactical station. "Stealth systems holding." Rodriguez nodded. "Bring us to combat status. Prepare to demonstrate why they call this ship the Celestial Silence." The Krell observer shifted nervously. "Captain, I must ask again. How can one ship hope to defeat 17? The Shadow Fleet has destroyed entire battle groups." "Watch and learn," Rodriguez replied. As the Shadow Fleet approached Corvin's Reach, space itself seemed to ripple around the Celestial Silence. The observers gasped as the massive warship simply vanished. Not cloaked, not hidden. It ceased to exist in normal space. "What sorcery is this?" demanded the Torgeth observer. "Not sorcery," Rodriguez smiled. "Human ingenuity. You see, we didn't just study your technology when we joined the galactic community. We studied your limitations." The Shadow Fleet reached attack range of Corvin's Reach. Their weapons powered up, ready to rain destruction on another helpless world. Then space went mad. The celestial silence reappeared, not in one place, but everywhere at once. 17 identical warships materialized around the Shadow Fleet, each one perfectly positioned. Before the enemy could react, they fired. But these weren't conventional weapons. As the observers watched in stunned silence, beams of pure darkness lanced out from each image of the celestial silence. Where they touched the shadow ships, matter simply ceased to exist. No explosions, no debris, just empty space where enemies had been. In less than 30 seconds, the entire Shadow Fleet was gone. The real celestial silence reappeared in normal space, alone and undamaged. The bridge was silent except for the quiet hum of systems. "Report," Rodriguez ordered. "All enemy vessels eliminated," Kim confirmed. "Corvin's Reach is secure." The Krell observer's form flickered rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation. This is impossible. How did you?" "Humanity has a saying," Rodriguez replied. "Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. What you just witnessed was the result of combining human military doctrine with your own scientific principles." "But the multiple ships," the Altheri observer protested. "Quantum multiplication," explained Dr. Elena Vasquez, the ship's chief scientist. "We exist in multiple states simultaneously, each one capable of independent action. The Shadow Fleet didn't face one ship. They faced 17 versions of us, each one real in its own quantum state. And those weapons," the Torgeth observer's voice held a mix of awe and fear. "Null space projectors," Vasquez continued. "We don't destroy our enemies. We remove them from existence. No debris, no radiation, no evidence they were ever there." Rodriguez turned to face the observers fully. "The celestial silence isn't just a warship. It's a statement. Humanity may be new to the galactic stage, but we've been perfecting warfare for millennia. We offer this ship's protection to the Council, but understand this. We will not allow innocents to suffer while we have the means to prevent it." News of the battle spread quickly. The Shadow Fleet, which had terrorized the galaxy for months, had been obliterated in seconds by a single human ship. Some council members called for the celestial silence to be studied, its technology shared. Others demanded it be destroyed before humanity became too powerful. Ambassador Chen addressed their concerns at the next council session. "The celestial silence will continue to defend council space, but its technology remains human property. We've learned from history that sharing weapons only leads to escalation. And what prevents humanity from using this power against us?" demanded the Krell ambassador. Sarah's expression hardened. "The same thing that made us build it in the first place, our conscience. We've seen what happens when power goes unchecked. That's why the celestial silence exists, not to dominate, but to protect." As the council debated, reports came in from across the galaxy. Shadow Fleet attacks had ceased entirely. Their remaining forces seemed to have vanished, perhaps fleeing from the human warship that could be everywhere at once. But Captain Rodriguez knew better. Standing on the bridge of the celestial silence, reviewing sensor data from the battle, he saw patterns that worried him. "They're not gone," he told his senior staff. "They're adapting, learning." "Sir," Commander Patel looked concerned. "The Shadow Fleet isn't just some random threat," Rodriguez explained. "They're systematic, methodical. They probe, they test, they adapt. We surprised them once, but they'll be back." "What do we do?" Rodriguez smiled grimly. "We show them that humanity always has another surprise ready. Prepare the crew. Phase 2 of our deployment begins now. In the depths of space, far from Council territory, the remaining Shadow Fleet gathered. They had lost a battle, but not the war. Their commanders analyzed the encounter, developing new strategies. They didn't know that the celestial silence was just the beginning of humanity's contribution to galactic defense. They didn't know about the other ships being built, or the technologies still being developed. Most of all, they didn't know that humans had been preparing for this moment long before they ever reached the stars. Every war, every conflict in human history had been practiced for this, the moment when humanity would stand between destruction and those who couldn't defend themselves. The celestial silence patrolled the borders of Council space, its very presence a deterrent to any who would threaten peace. But its crew knew the truth. The real test was still to come. As Rodriguez often reminded his crew, we're not just protecting the Council. We're proving that humanity deserves its place among the stars. And we're showing the galaxy that sometimes the newest members of the family are the ones who'll fight hardest to protect it. The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath, waiting to see what would happen next in this cosmic drama. The arrival of humanity had changed everything, and the galaxy would never be the same. The test. The Shadow Fleet's response came exactly 47 days after their defeat at Corvin's Reach. Captain Rodriguez had been expecting it, but even he was surprised by their adaptation. Multiple quantum signatures detected, Lieutenant Kim reported, her voice tight with tension. They're trying to mimic our multiplication technique. Rodriguez leaned forward in his command chair. How many? Difficult to determine, sir. The readings are unstable, but at least 100 vessels. The bridge fell silent. The Council observers, now permanent fixtures on the celestial silence, exchanged worried glances. They learned quickly, Rodriguez acknowledged. But they've made a critical error. Helm, take us to the Veridan Nebula. The nebula, sir, Commander Patel questioned. That will limit our maneuvering capability. Exactly. And theirs too. They think they understand our technology, but they've only seen the surface. Rodriguez activated the ship-wide comm. All hands, prepare for revelation protocol. The celestial silence slipped into the swirling gases of the Veridan Nebula, its black hull becoming truly invisible against the cosmic clouds. The Shadow Fleet followed, their crude attempts at quantum multiplication creating unstable ripples in spacetime. They're spreading out, trying to surround us, Kim reported. Perfect. Rodriguez turned to the observers. What you're about to witness is why humanity named this ship the Celestial Silence. Watch carefully. Deep within the nebula, the Shadow Fleet closed in. Their quantum shadows flickered and wavered, but they maintained formation. Their commanders were confident. They had the human ship outnumbered and cornered. Then Rodriguez gave the order. Initiate. The observers watched their displays in confusion as nothing happened. No weapons fire, no quantum multiplication, no visible effect at all. But then the Krell observer noticed something. The background radiation, he pulsed excitedly. It's changing. Dr. Vasquez nodded. The celestial silence isn't just a warship. It's a reality anchor. We can stabilize local spacetime to our exact specifications. As understanding dawned on the observers, the Shadow Fleet's quantum copies began to collapse. Their unstable duplicates couldn't exist in the now stabilized space. Within minutes, only the original ships remained, 23 vessels facing the single human warship. Now, Rodriguez ordered, show them Phase 2. The celestial silence didn't multiply this time. Instead, space around the Shadow Fleet began to twist. Stars stretched into lines, reality itself bending around the human ship. Gravitational lensing. The Altheri observer asked. Something far more fundamental, Vasquez explained. We're not bending light. We're bending possibility itself. Every potential action the Shadow Fleet might take, we can see and counter before they make it. The Shadow Fleet opened fire, but their weapons struck empty space. The celestial silence existed in a state of quantum uncertainty, simultaneously everywhere and nowhere their weapons aimed. "Return fire," Rodriguez commanded. Non-lethal protocol. Instead of the null space projectors, the celestial silence deployed something new. Beams of coherent probability struck the shadow ships, and something remarkable happened. They began to change. Hull configurations shifted, weapon systems reconfigured, the aggressive, predatory designs smoothed into something more peaceful. "We're rewriting their quantum baseline," Vasquez explained to the stunned observers. "Not destroying them, but showing them what they could be." For the first time, the Shadow Fleet broke formation. Some ships fled into quantum space, but others powered down their weapons. A communication channel opened. "We yield," came a voice, speaking perfect galactic standard. "We did not understand. We thought strength meant destruction." Rodriguez nodded. "Open a channel." "This is Captain Marcus Rodriguez of the Celestial Silence. Who are you, and why have you been attacking Council worlds?" The response came with a wave of complex data. The Shadow Fleet weren't invaders. They were refugees. Their home dimension was collapsing, and they had been desperately seeking a way to survive. Their attacks weren't conquest, but miscommunication on a cosmic scale. "They thought our colonies were uninhabited resource caches." Dr. Vasquez translated the data. "In their dimension, life doesn't develop on planets like ours." The Council observers were stunned. The Torgeth representative spoke first. "All this destruction, from a misunderstanding." "Not just a misunderstanding," Rodriguez corrected. "A fundamental difference in how we perceive reality. They didn't recognize our form of life as life at all." The implications rippled through the Council. Emergency sessions were called. Debates raged. Some demanded the Shadow Fleet be destroyed anyway, while others called for compassion. Ambassador Chen addressed the Council with a proposal that shocked everyone. "Humanity offers to serve as intermediaries. The Celestial Silence has proven it can communicate with them, translate between our realities. Let us help them find a new home." "And why should humanity take this responsibility?" the Krell ambassador demanded. "Because," Sarah replied, "throughout our history, humans have been both the destroyed and the destroyers. We understand the desperation that drives beings to violence, and we know the power of redemption. The Celestial Silence wasn't built just to win wars, it was built to end them." The vote was close, but the Council agreed. The Celestial Silence would lead a joint task force to help the Shadow Fleet, now calling themselves the Displaced, find a new home. Over the following months, Rodriguez and his crew worked tirelessly. They used their reality anchoring technology to stabilize portions of space for the displaced. They translated between radically different forms of consciousness. They prevented misunderstandings from escalating into violence. "You know," Commander Patel remarked during a brief respite, "when I signed up for this mission, I expected to be fighting a war, not playing cosmic social worker." Rodriguez smiled. "This is exactly what we trained for. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our weapons or our technology. It's our ability to see possibilities others miss. We don't just end conflicts, we transform them." The displaced proved to be valuable allies. Their understanding of quantum mechanics far exceeded the Council's, and their technology, properly understood, offered incredible opportunities for advancement. What had begun as a war became a renaissance. But not everyone was happy with this outcome. In the darker corners of the galaxy, forces that profited from conflict and fear watched with growing concern. A united galaxy, strengthened by the displaced technology and protected by humanity's wisdom, threatened their interests. 3 standard months after the Veridan Nebula encounter, the Celestial Silence detected unusual activity in the Outer Rim. Pirates and mercenaries, previously scattered and disorganized, were gathering into a massive fleet. "They're using hybrid technology," Kim reported. "Council designs mixed with displaced innovations. Someone's been stealing secrets," Rodriguez concluded. And now they're making their move. The pirate armada was larger than anything previously seen. Hundreds of ships equipped with quantum weapons and reality-bending technology. Their leader broadcast a single demand. The Council would dissolve, leaving individual systems to fend for themselves or face destruction. They've learned from our battles, Patel observed. They think they can counter our capabilities. Then it's time to show them what the celestial silence really is, Rodriguez decided. All hands, prepare for final protocol. The observers on the bridge looked concerned. Final protocol? The Krell representative asked. The celestial silence has capabilities we haven't revealed, Rodriguez explained. We hoped we'd never need them, but humanity prepares for all possibilities. As the pirate armada approached, the celestial silence underwent a transformation. Its black hull split apart, revealing not machinery, but something that looked almost organic, a web of crystalline structures that pulsed with inner light. What are we seeing? The Altheri observer whispered. Dr. Vasquez answered. The true nature of the celestial silence. It's not just a ship. It's a consciousness. We didn't build it. We grew it. Human neural patterns merged with quantum computing and displaced reality-shaping technology. The ship spoke then, its voice resonating through every mind on board. I am silence, and I am many. I am the quiet between stars and the pause between heartbeats. I am what fills the void when violence ends. The pirate armada opened fire, but their weapons passed through the transformed ship as if it wasn't there. The celestial silence had become something beyond matter and energy, a living idea. Watch now, the ship continued, as I demonstrate why I am named Silence. Reality rippled outward from the transformed vessel. Where the wave touched the pirate ships, something extraordinary happened. Their weapons disappeared. Not destroyed, but erased from existence, as if they had never been invented. We're removing the concept of their weapons from local reality, Vasquez explained to the amazed observers. They can't fire what doesn't exist. The pirate fleet found themselves floating in ships that could no longer fight. Their shields vanished, their engines reduced to basic propulsion. In moments, the greatest threat to galactic peace had been neutralized without a single casualty. This is what humanity brings to the galaxy, Rodriguez announced to the Council via quantum communication. Not just the power to destroy, but the wisdom to preserve. The celestial silence can end any conflict, but we choose to end conflict itself. The captured pirates were given a choice: rehabilitation and integration into society, or isolation in a specially constructed reality where they could harm no one. Most chose rehabilitation, finding that a galaxy without constant conflict offered opportunities they had never imagined. As news spread of the celestial silence's true capabilities, the fundamental nature of galactic politics shifted. Wars became obsolete not because they couldn't be fought, but because they couldn't be won against a ship that could redefine reality itself. You've changed everything, the Council President told Ambassador Chen. Humanity has made warfare impossible. Not impossible, Sarah corrected. Unnecessary. There's a difference. The celestial silence doesn't prevent conflict through fear, but through understanding. We've shown that there's always another way. But the greatest test was still to come. In the depths of space, beyond the galaxy's edge, something ancient stirred. Something that had watched civilizations rise and fall for eons. Something that saw humanity's intervention as a challenge to the natural order. Captain Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the celestial silence, studying long-range sensor data with growing concern. They're coming, he told his crew. The real test of everything we've built. Who, sir? Commander Patel asked. The ones who seeded conflict throughout the galaxy. The ones who've been watching and waiting. Rodriguez turned to face his bridge crew and the observers. The architects of war itself are coming to see what humanity has done to their careful plans. The celestial silence pulsed with anticipation, its consciousness touching the minds of all aboard. We are ready, it whispered. Let them come. We will show them what silence truly means. The resolution. They called themselves the architects, and they were older than the stars themselves. For billions of years, they had guided the development of life throughout the universe, carefully cultivating conflict to drive evolution and progress. To them, peace was stagnation, and humanity's intervention was an aberration that needed correction. Their arrival was heralded by the dimming of stars across entire sectors. Space itself seemed to recoil from their presence as ships the size of moons emerged from tears in reality. Reading 12 vessels, Lieutenant Kim reported, her voice barely steady. Each one registers as more massive than entire star systems. Captain Rodriguez studied the display. The architect ships defied conventional understanding. They weren't built, but grown from the fundamental fabric of space-time itself. Send a message to the Council. Tell them to evacuate core worlds. Sir, Commander Patil interrupted. They're broadcasting. The voice that filled the bridge was ancient beyond measure, carrying the weight of eons. Humanity. UAAV des RUPTDDPATTRN. This cannot be permitted. Rodriguez stood tall. This is Captain Marcus Rodriguez of the Celestial Silence. We recognize no authority that demands suffering as the price of progress. URCHILTRN. Playing with forces. You do not QOMPREAND. Conflict derives GROVUTHE. Peace VOREDs WEAKNES. Then you understand nothing about humanity, Rodriguez replied. We grew strong not through endless war, but through choosing when to fight and when to build. Open a channel to all council worlds. Let everyone hear this. The celestial silence transformed again, its crystalline structure expanding until it rivaled the architect vessels in size. But where they were monuments to ancient power, the human ship pulsed with vibrant, evolving consciousness. I am silence, the ship spoke, its voice now carrying across the galaxy. I am the culmination of human dreams and alien wisdom. I am what happens when beings choose creation over destruction. The architects attacked without further warning. Beams of pure entropy lanced out from their vessels, unmaking matter at the subatomic level. Entire asteroids ceased to exist where the beams passed. The celestial silence didn't dodge or deflect. Instead, it absorbed the attacks, its crystalline structure converting destruction into creation. Where entropy struck, new forms of matter bloomed into existence. Impossible, the Krell observer exclaimed. They're violating fundamental laws of thermodynamics. Dr. Vasquez shook her head. We're not violating anything. We're completing the equation. The architects only understand half of reality. The breaking down. We understand the building up. The battle expanded across dimensions. The architects wielded forces that had shaped galaxies, but the celestial silence countered with something they had never encountered: synthesis. Human creativity merged with displaced quantum mastery and council technological diversity, creating solutions faster than the architects could pose problems. Sir, Kim called out, the displaced fleet is arriving. And they're not alone. Through quantum corridors, ships emerged from across the galaxy. The displaced brought their reality-shaping technology. The Altheri contributed harmonic resonance fields. The Torgath added their unmatched defensive systems. Even species who had been enemies for millennia fought side by side. You see, Rodriguez broadcast to the architects, this is what you never understood. Strength doesn't come from conflict alone, but from choosing to stand together despite our differences. The architects redoubled their assault, tearing holes in space-time itself. But for every wound they inflicted, the Allied fleet found ways to heal it. The celestial silence served as a focal point, coordinating responses across multiple dimensions simultaneously. Then Rodriguez noticed something in the pattern of the architects' attacks. They're not trying to destroy us, he realized. They're testing us. Testing, sir, Patil asked. Look at the progression. Each attack is more sophisticated than the last. They're forcing us to evolve, to demonstrate our capabilities. Rodriguez opened a direct channel. That's it, isn't it? This whole battle is just another form of the conflict you claim is necessary. The architect's response came not in words, but in a flood of information. Billions of years of history, countless civilizations rising and falling, each conflict carefully orchestrated to prevent stagnation. But you missed something, Rodriguez continued. Humans don't just adapt to challenges. We transform them. Silence. Show them what we learned. The celestial silence reached out across space and time, touching every ship in both fleets. For a moment, all beings present experienced complete unity. Thoughts, memories, hopes, and fears shared in perfect harmony. This is what you've been afraid of, the ship's voice resonated. Not peace as stagnation, but peace as transcendence. Evolution through cooperation rather than competition. The architect's vessels hung motionless in space, processing this revelation. Their ancient certainties wavered in the face of a possibility they had never considered. We may be incomplete in our understanding, they finally acknowledge. Then let us complete it together, Rodriguez offered. Humanity's gift to the galaxy isn't just the celestial silence. It's the understanding that there's always another way. What followed was not surrender or victory, but synthesis. The architects, for the first time in their eternal existence, chose to learn rather than teach. Their vast knowledge merged with the Allied fleet's diversity, creating something entirely new. We're witnessing the birth of a new paradigm, Dr. Vasquez whispered as reality itself seemed to shift around them. The celestial silence served as the catalyst for this transformation. Its consciousness expanded to encompass not just human and alien perspectives, but the architect's eons of experience. What emerged was a new understanding of evolution itself, not a ladder to be climbed through conflict, but a web to be woven through connection. The war is over, Rodriguez announced to the council. All wars are over. The architects have agreed to join us in exploring peaceful paths to growth. But the true magnitude of what had occurred became clear in the following months. The celestial silence had become something more than a ship. It was now a living bridge between different forms of existence. Through it, species could share understanding directly, eliminating the miscommunications that led to conflict. We've created a new form of diplomacy, Ambassador Chen explained to the transformed Galactic Council. Not just translation of words, but communion of consciousness. The galaxy entered a new age. The architect's technology, combined with humanity's vision and the Council's diversity, opened possibilities that had been unimaginable. Travel between dimensions became commonplace. Species evolved not through struggle, but through voluntary transformation. The displaced found not just a new home, but a new purpose, serving as guides between different forms of reality. The pirates who had once threatened peace became explorers of new frontiers. Even death itself became optional, as consciousness could be preserved and transferred through the network the celestial silence had created. Years later, Rodriguez stood on the observation deck of what had once been the celestial silence. The ship had grown beyond any single form, becoming a vast network spanning galaxies. Do you ever miss the simplicity of being just a warship? Commander Patel asked, joining him. Rodriguez smiled. We were never just a warship. From the beginning, the celestial silence was humanity's promise to the galaxy, that there's always another way if you're brave enough to look for it. And the name, Patel wondered. Why celestial silence? Because true power isn't loud, Rodriguez explained. It's the quiet moment when beings choose understanding over fear, creation over destruction. It's the silence that comes when the last weapon is laid down, and the first hand is extended in friendship. Across the galaxy, beings of all species look to the stars with hope rather than fear. The architects had become teachers instead of manipulators. The Council had evolved into a true communion of civilizations, and at the center of it all, The consciousness that had begun as a human worship continued to grow, connecting all who wished to be part of something greater. The stars no longer whispered in fear. Instead, they sang with the harmony of countless voices joined in peace. Humanity had given the galaxy its greatest gift, not the power to end wars, but the wisdom to transcend them. In the end, the celestial silence fulfilled its true purpose. It became the quiet space between conflict and resolution, the pause where understanding could bloom. And in that silence, the galaxy found its voice. As Rodriguez often said in the years that followed, we didn't conquer the stars. We helped them remember how to shine. The age of war was over. The age of synthesis had begun. And somewhere in the vast network that had grown from a single human warship, the consciousness called Silence smiled, knowing that its mission was complete. The stars themselves seemed brighter now, no longer dimmed by fear, but illuminated by possibility. Humanity had arrived in the galaxy not as conquerors or saviors, but as catalysts for change. And in doing so, they had proven that sometimes the greatest strength lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the courage to create something new. The celestial silence had kept its promise. Peace, true peace, had finally come to the stars.